Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Flynn, and I want to welcome you on behalf of the Haiti Emergency Relief Fund. Okay, there it is. Sorry, my video is blocked. My name is Laura Flynn. I want to welcome you all on behalf of the Haiti Emergency Relief Fund. We've organized this webinar today to tell the story of Unifa, the medical and university in Haiti, and to raise funds for a brand new teaching hospital in Haiti. The Haiti Emergency Relief Fund was founded in the aftermath of the 2004 coup in Haiti to provide direct support to grassroots organizations and institutions fighting for justice and democracy in Haiti. Nearly 30 years ago, I helped to found the Haiti Action Committee in the Bay Area, which is a sister organization to HERF. I did that with Pierre Lebossier and Robert Roth, who are both still in this struggle with me, and a whole bunch of other folks. It was a particularly dire moment in Haiti's history, and we felt compelled to act here in the United States, both politically and to provide material support in solidarity with people's movement in Haiti. I want to thank the board of HERF, co-chairs Walter Riley, Sister Maureen Dugman, co-chairs Pierre Lebossier, Nina Amara, Marilyn Langlois, Robert Roth, and Seth Donnelly for organizing this call and inviting me to share the Zoom stage today with a really incredible lineup of speakers. I'm thrilled to be doing this. Unifa is one of my favorite places on earth, and as you will hear, it's basically a miracle. We have over 60 organizations co-sponsoring the event with us. So it's been an incredible outpouring of support for Haiti and for this incredible hospital. The call will be 90 minutes long. In just a couple minutes, we're going to be hearing from Danny Glover, and then Congresswoman Maxine Waters, if she's able to jump on with us. She's in the midst of major negotiations in Washington, but she has agreed to spend a couple minutes with us, so we're really honored to have her. And then we're going to hear from Mildred Aristide, who is joining us from Haiti. And after that, we're going to hear from Dr. Henri Ford, who is a Haitian American doctor here in the United States, who spent a lot of time in Haiti, civil rights lawyer Ira Kurzman, and K-Rana Harmon, president of the Black Student Union at Foothills College, who just recently returned from leading a youth delegation to Haiti. Couple of technical things: we're broadcasting via Zoom, as well as Facebook Live and Twitter. If you're on the Zoom call, we encourage you to join from your computer rather than the phone, because it's a better experience. And we'll be sharing some short videos, so you'll better be able to see that. It's also not too late to share out the Facebook Live or Twitter links if you're on there with friends who can join us today. The webinar is being recorded, and we plan to use it over the next couple of months to continue to tell Unifa's story and to share it with all of you, to share with others who maybe weren't able to make the call today. So we are in an incredible moment, both in the United States, in the world, and in Haiti. And it feels really just like all of these things are coming together in a really major way. I lived in Haiti in the late 90s, worked really closely with Mildred and with President Aristide at the Aristide Foundation for Democracy for 5 years. And Unifa was really born at that time. It was an idea to provide more medical, to provide education to people who had never had access to higher education, to really, the vast majority of people in Haiti are poor and they had no access to any kind of advanced education and a desperate need for medical care. Mildred's going to talk a lot more about the founding and how that all happened, but I just wanted to say that this has been a long story that many of us on this call have been involved with for decades of our lives, and it's very cool to have everybody here on this call together today. I actually live in Minneapolis now, and so I live about 12 blocks from where George Floyd was murdered in May, and some of the things that I've seen and witnessed in Minneapolis took me directly back to my experiences in Haiti, for better and for worse, including seeing National Guard trucks and military patrolling down my street, things that I had only seen before in Haiti. And at the same time, this incredible movement emerging with power and vision and youth voices that also deeply remind me of Haiti. And I feel that Haitians have taught the world how to resist, how to protest, and how to continue resisting over a very, very long time against all odds. So I am always inspired by the movements in Haiti, and I know they're deeply connected to the movements in our own country. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Danny Glover, who doesn't need a huge introduction. I think we all know he is an actor and activist who's visited Haiti numerous times, and he's been a steadfast supporter of the work of Unifa for many years. He's probably better known for many other roles, but I know my favorite role was when he participated in a reenactment of the Haitian, a theatrical reenactment of the Haitian Revolution at the Haitian National Palace on the bicentennial of the revolution in 2004. So let me welcome Danny. And
thank you so much, Laura, and thank you for all those who are joining us here for this very special moment. You know, any moment, any time I get to celebrate Haiti, but most notably the Haitian people, it's one of the great honors for me and one of the great privileges for me. And I say that with privilege in so many ways, as I remember back the period, my whole life with Haiti. And most times that people refer to me and ask me whether I'm Haitian. And I've always used Frederick Douglass's great statement that he's a Haitian at heart, that I'm a Haitian at heart, and always will be. When I think about the heroic struggles of the Haitian people, it is the most extraordinary moment in human history. Everything that's happened in Haiti, it's translated in such a way that it's been transformative for all of us. The real meaning at that very key moment, the real meaning for all men are created equal was created in Haiti in 1804, and we must never forget that. The first time I came to Haiti is about 2 years out of college in 1973, and I just wanted to go there. I had read certainly the great C.L.R. James's The Black Jacobins, and so it was itself a kind of calling, as if I had this calling to go to Haiti, but never would I have been in my most amazing, in my most wildest dream as a young man out finishing college. Never would I anticipate that I've had the privilege of having the relationship that I've had with Haiti over the last nearly 30 years, over the last 30 years. And certainly and there's so many faces that we talk about, and so many ways in which we talk about the struggles that we've encountered in Haiti from the moment that my little brother, President Aristide was elected. From that moment, from the coup, Randall Robinson and the hunger strike that he went on in order to have the democracy come back to Haiti, and the reestablishment of our friend and our President Aristide. All those were the things that just a template of the opportunities that I have to engage with the Haitian people, whether it was the bicentennial, and an extraordinary bicentennial. Imagine 200 years old in 2004. All those things have been important to me. And certainly I've talked about Haiti through my desire, which continues to be my desire to make a movie on that, about that great moment in Haitian history, but in world history, the transformative moment that happened in world history. In fact, my company that does extraordinary work, film company called Louverture Films, know that in homage to and respect to the great liberator is all, and all those people, and how it singly every day, as you say that, Laura, as you say that they teach us about resistance. I don't care where they are in the world. If you talk to labor unions, organized labor, and you talk about who's some of the most explicit and most extraordinary organizers in their union, often you find that they're Haitians, and in that sense, because why wouldn't they be? They organized a revolution and was successful in the revolution, the most successful revolution, I would say, and the first victory of Africans against the worldwide institution of slavery, the first victory there. And so you have to be that. And the role that they played historically, whether it's Simone Boulevard coming to Andre Pétion, and beginning to come and receive resources in order to liberate South America, so all these histories that come into that we don't know. We're experiencing something in this moment in our own country and in the world, and particularly about this country. As Baldwin said, when we cannot tell the truth about our past, we become trapped in it. We're trapped in our past, whether it comes to our understanding of who the Haitian people represent, what they represent, not singly just to that island, but what they represent to the world and represent to the hemisphere itself. So the work that we need to do continues. Every moment that Haitian people on the island resist the oppression that that underscores their history, every moment it's a challenge for us to meet with them and whatever they do. The Haitian Emergency Relief Fund is one part of that. The extraordinary idea of building a hospital to service the Haitian people is another. It's grassroots. It's from the bottom of our hearts and from the bottom of the Haitian people as well. So it's a privilege for me to be at this particular moment on this phone call as we continue, as we would say often in Portuguese, a luta continua. The struggle continues.
Thanks so much, Danny. That was amazing. We are so honored to have Congresswoman Maxine Waters with us today. I saw her there. Congresswoman Waters, we'd like to welcome you to this webinar. Congresswoman Waters is serving her 15th term in Congress from the 43rd District of California. She made history as the first woman and first African-American chair of the House Financial Services Committee. She's been an utterly fearless advocate for women, children, people of color, and the poor. She has been the foremost voice in Congress for democracy and human rights in Haiti. And those of us close to Haiti and to the Aristides know just how deep a personal debt that Haiti owes to Maxine. So without further ado, we turn it over to you, Congresswoman Waters. Our question is, we know you've been, I'll just let you go.
Okay. Well, thank you so very, very much. I was excited when I got the invitation to participate today for so many reasons. This webinar gives me the opportunity to reconnect with a number of people. But first, let me say that I am just so proud of Mildred Aristide. I'm so proud of her for the work that she has done for so long, and this very, very special effort that she has made to do what perhaps many folks thought could not be done. She, is establishing this teaching hospital, and it's amazing the work that she's done to get it started, to get it going. As a matter of fact, when this teaching hospital is completed, she will have, and the island will have, and Haiti will have, the people will have trained physicians and others who work in that hospital setting because of the efforts that she has made, the Aristide Foundation, in training and developing doctors and lawyers and nurses and so many other professions that they have developed in the teaching and training overall that they have done under this foundation. So first I'd like to say hello to Mildred Aristide, former First Lady of Haiti. And of course, I always send my regards to President Aristide. Now, taking a look at all of the participants today, Danny Glover, I told Danny the last time I saw him, he's everywhere. I don't know how he manages his time, but he does a remarkable job of being where he needs to be. Good to see you, Danny. Also, I'm very, very pleased about all of the others who are on today, but Ira Kurzman is a special man. I want you to know I've been thinking about you, Ira. I have not seen you for a long time, but I know that you're doing the work that you've always done. Civil rights and immigration attorney who spent decades, as is indicated here, fighting for the rights of immigrants and refugees. And you and I have been together on some extraordinary journeys. And the most interesting one was when we were put off the plane together in Haiti. And I've never forgotten that incident, but you are such a brave soul who have been here on behalf of Haiti, on behalf of the Aristides, on behalf of doing everything that you possibly could do to try and bring the democracy to Haiti that it needs and it deserves. And so here we are. And on my recent visit, the last visit that I was on, I think it was maybe late last year, I had the opportunity not only to go to a great meeting that was put together at the university, but I also had the opportunity to view the plans of the teaching hospital and to go on the site and to walk through with Mildred exactly what was being built, how it was being laid out, and already much of the groundwork had been done at that time. And so I know that this not only is a tremendous effort, but a very worthwhile effort, but it's going to need resources. It's going to need all of us to do everything that we can to ensure that this teaching hospital is completed, that it has all of the equipment that it needs, that it is a place where all of these trained people, Haitians, all of these trained Haitians, trained by the university, can go to work and can do what they have been taught and what they have learned to do, and to have the kind of careers that a lot of folks never anticipated. And so I'm delighted to be with you all today, and for Laura Flynn and Henry Ford, MD, MHA, and for K-Rana Harmon, I'm delighted to have joined you here today with Danny Glover and my friend Ira Kurzman to talk about what can be done with this Haiti Emergency Relief Fund. I know that, as we watch what is going on in Haiti, we're pained, And we just believe that we have to continue the struggle for freedom and for justice and for democracy. And perhaps, you know, we'll have a little bit of time for someone to start the conversation relative to that. But today, this is about Unifa, the University of the Dr. Aristide Foundation. This is organized by the Haiti Emergency Relief Fund. And so we've got to concentrate on what we can do to be of support in the best way that we possibly can to this fund, so that this teaching hospital can become everything that Mildred Aristide and the foundation have envisioned. This is a vision that was started with the Aristides and with the foundation. This is a vision that has become a reality. And so here I am, and I wish I could do a lot more. I wish I could get to Haiti a lot more often. We need to be there. We need to be dealing with what is going on right now with this president. We need to understand what is happening to so many good people who are being beaten and, you know, houses burned, all of that. But let me just continue in the way that I believe that Mildred would like us to continue today. And let's focus on Unifa, and let's focus on the mission that we're here to support. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I'm just going to be here with you as I listen to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. So great to have you with us today. So we're now going to turn to a quick video that was put together in 2017. We wanted to give you some images so you can actually see the campus, see what it looks like for students, the over 1,000 students who are now studying at the Unifa campus. So Karina, if you can pull that up. Great. And give it one more minute, see if we can pull up that video.
Haiti is usually depicted in a negative light. When you hear Haiti, you think of disaster. However, there is another story, one that you don't see or hear. Unifa, the University of the Aristide Foundation, is working towards creating a new narrative about Haiti, training Haitian professionals to solve Haitian problems in Haiti. Doctors and nurses to treat and prevent cholera, engineers to build buildings that withstand earthquakes and floods, lawyers to champion the rights of Haiti's poor majority. Unifa, a fully accredited, multidiscipline university staffed by Haitian professors, offers degrees in medicine, nursing, law, physical therapy, engineering, and dentistry, as well as a continuing education department. It has more than 1,300 matriculated students at its campus in Tabar, Haiti. President Jean-Bertrand Aristide returned to Haiti in 2011, determined to reopen Unifa, to carry out his vision of providing a human rights-based model of education as the building block for effective change. Unifa provides a safe environment for critical thinking, where young people gain the skills and knowledge to lead their country forward. Unifa is unique in its commitment to break down social, economic, and gender barriers to higher education. Students receive a superior education for less tuition than other local private universities. A certain number of scholarships are granted to high school students with top grades throughout Haiti, and provides a dormitory for students living in the outskirts. More than half of the students are young women. Matriculated students are encouraged to put their new knowledge at the service of poor communities. In fall of 2017, Unifa's law school is launching a civic education program in the community to teach about rule of law and citizens' rights. Medical, nursing, and physical therapy students volunteer on a regular basis, assisting doctors and nurses at the Aristide Foundation's mobile clinic, serving thousands of local families. This year, we invite you to invest in a new narrative about Haiti. Please make your tax-deductible donation today. Your donation in any amount is important to Unifa and greatly appreciated.
L'Haïti règne à l'éducation sans exclusion.
Great. That was wonderful. Thanks, K-Rana, for pulling that up. And thanks to Michelle Carshan, who actually helped put together that video for us. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Mildred Aristide, the former First Lady of Haiti. She is an attorney, author, and member of the Board of Administration of the Université de la Fondation Aristide, Unifa. She's also one of my oldest friends. We've been working together for over 30 years. She is an absolute model of resilience, I would say. She has had to pick her life back up and put it together so many times. It's astounding. And when we say that she's deeply involved with Unifa, yes, she's leading on the vision and she's helping raise the funds and she's talking to the people building, but she's also there every day and is the person who knows where all the keys are and has to worry about when the electricity goes out and all of the massive problems that come with administrating a major institution in Haiti. So she is both on the ground making it happen and also reaching out beyond Haiti to build the support for this visionary university. And I'm going to turn, she's going to tell us a whole lot more about the history and then the dream for building this teaching hospital on the campus at Unifa. Welcome, Mildred.
Thank you very much, Laura, for that really kind introduction. Danny, Congresswoman Waters, thank you for your powerful testimonies. And it is wonderful to be with you, even though we're not all together, but it just feels so right and so together. I hope that everyone who is attending and on this Zoom call is keeping safe and well. And I thank you for carving out this moment during these troubling times to have this conversation about our project for a teaching hospital at our university, Unifa, here in Haiti. I know that your energy and your minds are rightfully occupied by the COVID-19 pandemic, the police murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. This struggle for racial equality in the United States is shining a light not only on injustice in the US, but really throughout the world. And under these circumstances, I am most respectful of your commitment to engage with us today on our project to spend this time together. A Unifa teaching hospital is really a charged statement. And so it may not be the first thing you think about when you think of Haiti's multitude of needs. So why a teaching hospital and why now? The project demands interrogation. And it has to be seen against the backdrop of the times that we're living in, that the world is living in. Because we're in the summer of 2020, of course, I will speak to the impact of COVID-19 on our project. If we were in January of 2010, I would speak to the impact of the earthquake that killed over 300,000 people. If it were 2012, we would talk about the impact of cholera outbreak right after the earthquake that killed over 10,000 people. If it were 2014, the chikungunya and the Zika viruses that infected probably half of our population. If it was 2015, our conversation would probably also center on the deadly hurricanes that hit the country that year. The connective tissue of all of these events is that they laid bare the absence of any real public healthcare system in Haiti. This was most evident to the world after the earthquake, when medical missions from everywhere rushed to bring emergency and life-saving care to Haiti. These catastrophes also underscored the persistence of diseases that are directly linked to hunger, poverty, environmental degradation, repression, and violence in Haiti. And they amplify the urgency to train skilled healthcare workers to meet the healthcare needs of our population. Training that must take place in large part at a university teaching hospital. Each word, Unifa, teaching, hospital, Haiti, requires some breaking down. And I'd like to start with Haiti. And I know that Danny and Laura gave a good setup as to the history of Haiti. And we who are involved with Haiti, know Haiti, always have to go to the history because it is so important to the present. My goal today is to show you that a teaching hospital in Haiti, no matter how far away Haiti may sound from where you are sitting right now this afternoon, but it intersects with the global struggle across the world that is converging into really one struggle for human dignity. Healthcare is a basic human right, but one that has long not been available to most Haitians. The same is true for education. We are trying to forge a pathway towards training a greater number of healthcare professionals precisely because it addresses both needs, health and education. And as Congresswoman Waters says, at the same time, we are training citizens to be humanly connected to one another and increasing the number of skilled and active citizens able to affect change. We believe strongly that the teaching hospital is an important space where this can happen. Since Haiti's emergence, we have always stood at the crossroads of a struggle for dignity. And here I'll go to my brief examples from our history, because they really are important to what we're experiencing today. Of course, in history, the most basic of our struggles was the struggle for our humanity. As Danny said, in 1804, an army of former slaves abolished slavery. It was the first country to ever do that. But in our backyard loomed heavy the presence of a giant slave nation, the United States. And all around us, encircling us in the Caribbean Sea, the slave colonies of Europe's great powers, France, England, and Spain. So we were boycotted and isolated. In 1825, on the threat of re-enslavement, Haiti was forced to pay a blood debt to France. Former slaves paid reparations to former slave masters. The amount represented France's annual budget and 10 years of revenue for Haiti. And by the time these debts ended, well into the 20th century, the debt had crossed the ocean, moving from France to an American bank. Then in a 19-year US occupation that started in 1915 and gave rise to a murderous Haitian army, responsible for repression and political instability for much of our history. For decades, the leadership of that army was trained at a US Army named after a US Confederate general, Fort Benning in Georgia. And up until the waning days of the 35-year Duvalier dictatorship, both Duvalier father and son were supported with financial assistance and military assistance by the international community. These are just some of the things and some of the ways that show that Haiti has never lived separately from the political and economic realities of world affairs. These events crippled our nation's development. Persistent racism, social and economic exclusion, political corruption, and instability, layered on top of those events, are the challenges that prevent Haiti from being whole. And it persists. From October to early December of last year, before the coronavirus had triggered the worldwide lockdown, the virus of poverty, repression, and hunger had triggered a national lockdown here in Haiti. We called it pays lock, country locked. Schools, banks, government offices, everything was closed. Neighborhoods and roads were barricaded. People demanding their human dignity. Haitians collectively asking to breathe. Now, I want to focus a little bit on Unifa. The video spoke to the origins of Unifa, and I'll just add a little bit more. Then I'll narrow in specifically on what medical education looks like at Unifa and why the teaching hospital is vital. Unifa was founded by my husband, President Jean-Bertrand Aristide, in 2001 during his second term as president. At the time, the country had a very robust medical training program with Cuba. So each year, up to 50 to 60 Haitian university students were enrolled in Cuban medical schools. In the 15+ history of this program, over 700 Haitian doctors have been trained. We took it one step further in creating Unifa, a medical school with a teaching staff that was composed of professors from Cuba, but situated here in Haiti. At the time, we had 3 goals, and those 3 goals continue to guide us: to prepare doctors to also care for the poorest of the poor with a more humanistic approach, to increase the number of doctors practicing in the rural areas where there is almost an absence of any kind of care, and to break down the long tradition of exclusion of the poor majority in Haiti from access to higher education. Our vision was to create this safe learning environment so that young Haitians could begin and continue to think critically about our country, an institution to address our national issues, Haitians to train Haitian problems, as we like to say. By the end of our first 2 years in the fall of 2003, there were approximately 240 students enrolled in our medical school. Now, for those of you who may be familiar with Haitian politics, you may know that shortly after the fall of 2003, specifically February 2004, there was a coup d'etat against President Aristide's government. It was the 32nd coup in the country's history. It came just months after President Aristide announced that it was time to open discussions with France on restitution and reparations for the debt extorted from Haiti in 1825. A Haitian government commission of economists estimated the present-day value of the debt at over $21 billion. I can tell you that the request for dialogue did not go over very well, and it was not very well received. Within days after the 2004 coup, the international military force that had arrived in Haiti forced the 240 students off campus, and Unifa transformed from university to military installation. Meanwhile, my 2 daughters, my husband and I spent 7 years in exile in South Africa. When we were able to return in 2011, in March of 2011, with great assistance from Maxine Waters and Danny Glover, who was with us on that flight, Ira, we immediately set about to reopen Unifa. We had to. And so in October of that first year, 2011, we reopened Unifa. And again, we started with the medical school with some of the same professors from Cuba who had been there in 2004. And most importantly, the 240 Unifa students who somehow continued their education in Cuba and were back in Haiti. Not all of them, but many of them. And of course, with much assistance from HERF and the Haitian Action Committee, we were able to clean up the campus and begin 126 students back in 2011. 9 years later, we've added 6 more schools. Today, our teaching staff is 100% Haitian. There are still some of the Cubans who are with us, but we're mostly a Haitian staff. In the area of health sciences, in addition to medicine, we've added nursing, dentistry, and physical therapy. In fact, our School of Physical Therapy is the first university-level PT program in Haiti. As you can well imagine, a vitally needed service since the 2010 earthquake, which left tens of thousands of people injured and in need of therapy. We also have the law school, a school of engineering, architecture, and a school of administration. And this year, we added a school of agriculture. Enrollment currently stands at approximately 2,002 students. A drop in the bucket when you consider the education needs in Haiti. An average Haitian who is 25 years or older has less than 5 years of schooling, and about 50% of children don't attend school. Every year, approximately 40 to 45,000 students complete high school and pass the state-mandated exam, and they are theoretically eligible for entry into the university system. But there are not nearly enough university seats available to meet this need. Historically, those who can have gone to the United States, the Dominican Republic, Canada, or France for their university studies, but economically, that is becoming less and less of an option. And it's clearly not the solution for Haiti. Today, the hardships in Haiti are forcing our young people, skilled workers, construction workers, electricians, to flee, to go to places as far as Panama, Brazil, and Chile. The dream of a visa cannot fuel the future of our country. Since we reopened in 2011, we have maintained our tuition lower than all the comparable universities in order to keep Unifa accessible to as many Haitians as possible. We have a large campus in the country. It's the largest campus in the country, and it's situated about 4 miles from the airport, for those of you who may know Haiti. And we are in Tabar, which is a municipality that experienced a surge in the population following the 2010 earthquake. The academic buildings sit on 33 acres, and there is a sports field, a residential campus that is progressively growing to accommodate more students and professors. Right now, we have about 70 residents on the campus. Across the 7 schools, we have 109 professors, and we welcome visiting professors from the United States and abroad. For instance, just last year, Dr. Douglas Gross from the California Davis School of Medicine led a 5-day neuroanatomy seminar for our 3rd-year students, which we opened up to other medical students. Interestingly, Dr. Gross first came to Haiti on one of those medical missions who came in after the earthquake. And after 2 years of coming back to provide clinical assistance, he realized that his skills as a professor would be better spent in the field of medical education. And so he's committed to coming back and teaching at Unifa. And of course, we prize our Haitian diaspora and encourage them also to continue to be engaged as instructors at Unifa. We are proud that in the last 9 years since we reopened, we have graduated 3 classes in medicine, nursing, and law, and 2 classes in physical therapy. In total, we've added to the population 378 doctors, 97 nurses, 26 physical therapists, and 51 lawyers. A growing cohort of young professionals with a tool to enter the workforce in Haiti. Young professionals who have already demonstrated a commitment to be active participants of change in Haiti. Just this past week, I was at a nearby hospital with my father when I was approached by a young man who announced that he was a proud graduate of Unifa, now working at the hospital. So those moments always make us feel very, very proud and very clear that we have to continue on this path. Now, I'd like to focus a little bit on the training that our students in the health sciences receive. Students in medicine, nursing, dentistry, and physical therapy must, of course, have clinical training as part of their training. Right now, to meet this requirement, we are forced to parcel out our students to over 10 facilities across Haiti. Because of that, Unifa does not have 100% control over this important part of their education. The institutions receiving our students charge a significant monthly fee, plus we have to pay the hospital staff doctors who oversee the training. After their 5th year of classroom instruction, medical students are required to complete a 1-year internship. This year, we had 136 interns. And then after the internship, they must fulfill what is called a year of social service, which is traditionally the placement in a medical facility or a public health facility, usually outside the capital where access to health is most limited. And then when they finish that year of social service, for those who are lucky, there are a very, very few number of residency seats where students can go on to specialize in a particular area of medicine. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, clinical training of our non-intern students had to be suspended. For our interns, the experience was mixed. They were assigned to 3 different state hospitals, but not all of the facilities were fully functioning. And in order for our students to work, we had to provide them with about $10,000 worth of protective equipment, in addition to having to pay the monthly fees and the doctor's fees that are required. In 2017, Unifa decided to open a small clinic at our foundation's community center, which is not far from the university. We hired 2 dentists, installed 2 fully equipped dental chairs, hired an internist, a nurse, and an ophthalmologist. And steadily, over the past 3 years, we have invested to increase the range of services and the number of physicians. We added a pharmacy, a laboratory, and a small outpatient surgery unit. We now have 7 dental chairs, and we hired on staff 2 doctors from our first graduating class. And last year, our clinic was certified by the Ministry of Health to serve as a training site for our students, albeit limited given the size. Every year, as was explained in the video, we sponsor 4 to 5 open houses where consultations and prescribed medicines are given freely to the community members who come. And we receive between 500 and 700 people on that very long day that we have these events. Unifa students are required to participate in these mobile clinics, and they do assist the doctors. The clinic was our first step in not only providing healthcare to our immediate community, but developing this clinical training for our students. In 2018, we took the next step, and the Unifa board decided to create a fund to begin construction on our own teaching hospital. We commissioned an architect to begin working on a plan. Now, I want to just generally describe the health and the sanitary conditions in Haiti without giving you a long litany of facts and figures, but just so that you can see the context. According to the most reliable statistics from a 2016-2018 study, there are 1,007 healthcare facilities in Haiti for a population that is upwards of 12 million. But healthcare facility is a broad and generously used term, ranging from a small handful of fully equipped hospitals to bare dispensaries that are no more than a bed and some antiquated material. And very often, the only health professional that is there for miles is either a nurse or the new med student who graduated and is stationed there for a year. In this same 2016-2018 study, the facilities are categorized by the availability of such basic resources like steady source of electricity, bathrooms for patients, access to water and oxygen. Only 32% of health facilities in Haiti provide essential medicines, and only 31 possess basic medical equipment. Roughly 40% of Haiti's population lacks access to essential health and nutrition services. And roughly 60% of births occur outside a health facility or without a skilled provider. The State University Hospital is the largest teaching and treating hospital in the country, and it was severely damaged by the 2010 earthquake. But even before then, patients at the state hospital were expected to provide material as basic as alcohol, gauze, IV solutions, syringes, that were all part of their care. In 2004, before the coup, under the administration of my husband, the Aristide administration, the government's allocation for health was 16.6%. Today, it's less than 5%. The COVID-19 pandemic has, of course, worsened the situation. There are hospitals and health facilities that categorically refuse to accept anyone who exhibits any symptoms associated with the virus. In other facilities, the healthcare staff, especially in the beginning, was simply not showing up. They don't have the protective equipment and don't have medications to treat. In one hospital, patients got up from their beds and left the facility when they discovered that there were COVID-19 patients in the hospital. It's unfortunate, but this stigmatization is widespread, as it was in the 1980s, when Haitians were labeled the 4th H in the HIV/AIDS pandemic then emerging, alongside homosexuals, heroin users, and hemophiliacs. In fact, just this past June, under pressure, Netflix was forced to pull an episode from a documentary because they put Haiti at the center of the AIDS epidemic. To now ask an average Haitian to stay at home because of the pandemic condemns her to spend a day without food, because the informal economy is the official economy. There's no social safety net. There's no government check in the mail. People question money spent on giant billboards and flyers and TV commercials about social distancing and hand washing when less than half of Haitians in rural areas have access to water. How do you social distance when motorcycle taxis are transporting up to 3 passengers at a time? When open markets are most corners where there is a little space. People with symptoms of COVID are asked to not only stay at home, but to stay confined to a separate room and use a separate bathroom. But what homes, what bathrooms, what bedrooms? Only 24% of Haitians have access to a modern toilet. There are people living in the bidonvilles, the favelas, who sleep on a rotating basis. Since the start of the pandemic, there has been little confidence in the daily posting of the numbers of COVID-19 cases and deaths. You still have to know someone who maybe knows someone to get tested. So at the first sign of a fever, most Haitians resort to what they know best and what they've been doing all their lives, mixing a combination of herbal teas and relying on natural remedies. 2 weeks ago, at the height of a gas shortage, which is still gripping the country, if you called the Ministry of Health to get a COVID test, you were asked to provide transportation for the testers because the ministry had run out of gas. Ultimately, one of the physicians who sits on the official government commission said that COVID-19 is so prevalent in Port-au-Prince, which is the capital, that you don't have to test anymore. All patients presenting COVID-19 patients have about an 80% probability of being positive. But let's go back to Unifa and our vision for the hospital. In the spring of 2009, as Maxine was alluding to, we started construction in earnest on 4 acres of our 33-acre campus. And when she, Maxine, Danny, Walter Riley, Brian Concannon visited that April, they were able to tour the site. The architect, in collaboration with the Dean of Medical School, who is a former Minister of Health, designed a 3-story facility of approximately 53,800 square feet with 50 beds and plenty of space to grow. There will be an emergency room, an on-site laboratory, pharmacy, and outpatient clinics in OBGYN, internal medicine, pediatrics, orthopedic surgery, urology, ophthalmology, and neurology. Unifa's credo is education without exclusion. Our commitment is to excellence. If truly we want to train the best doctors, nurses, dentists, physical therapists, and other health professionals, we must do that at our own hospital under the supervision of our professors. The twin vocations of the university hospital, providing healthcare to the community and training health professionals, is urgent. It cannot wait, and we are not waiting. Although classes were suspended in March and the campus is closed, construction on the hospital is moving forward. The foundation and all of the load-bearing walls of the entire ground level of the 2 wings is complete. The first of 3 reinforced concrete slab roofs have been poured. The second roof is scheduled to be poured within the next 2 weeks. A commission is right now reviewing the list of material and equipment that will be needed for a phased opening that can begin with 4 of the essential services on an outpatient care basis. I want to end with what for me is a very hopeful story. On one of his trips to Unifa, Dr. Henry Ford, who you will be hearing from in a little bit, who's dean of the Miami Medical School, he came to Unifa and lectured about a very complicated in utero procedure that he was able to perform when he was practicing at LA Children's Hospital. At the end of his lecture, a student thanked him for his inspiring talk. And the student said, "You know, Dr. Ford, everything you showed us today was great. Clearly you work at a hospital with resources to help you save lives. However, you know the situation of the healthcare system in Haiti. We don't have an LA Children's Hospital." And then he went on to say, "Dr. Ford, tell us, what do we have to do? Who do we have to be as doctors in order to give our patients in Haiti that same level of care and save lives?" Our students and their families make enormous sacrifices and overcome huge obstacles to pursue their university studies. They are committed to being the kind of healthcare professionals who will treat all people with no distinction. We are duty-bound to ensure that this philosophy is at the core of all of their training, especially at the clinical level. When my husband, President Aristide, became Haiti's first democratically elected president back in 1991, his rallying call was "Tout moun c'est moun." Every person is a human being. Poor lives matter, Black lives matter. His vision sounded simple, but was hugely profound. It was to move the country from misery to poverty with dignity. This vision continues to guide us. By educating the daughters and sons of domestic workers, subsistence farmers, market women, factory workers, teachers, street vendors, taxi drivers, Mun under yo, the historically excluded, Haiti is affirming this truth and is fully engaged in the struggle for dignity for all. I thank you for your time and for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mildred. That was amazing. Wow, a whole lot of things I didn't know that are happening on the campus at Unifa. I am more excited than ever. And now is the moment that I want to invite you to all to join us in this vision and to complete this work to finish building the hospital and to equip it. We need resources to do that work. The human resources, as you've heard, are there. The people are there, the students are there, their families are supporting them. Some of them are being supported by a relative who's driving a cab in New York City, you know, who's sending their nephew to school in Haiti to serve their country. I think we owe it to them to stand in here and provide the resources to get the university built. HERF's been supporting Unifa since 2011, but specifically around building the hospital and in the lead up to this call, HERF has raised $60,000 in pledges from supporters around the country. And our goal, so we've already raised $60,000, and our goal today via this phone call is to raise an additional $60,000. I think we can do it. I think we can double that first 60,000. We've had over 230 people on this call so far, and we're going to share the video out even more broadly. I did some quick math while Mildred was talking, and if everybody was able to give $250, we would hit the 60,000 goal. I know that everybody on the call isn't able to make that kind of donation. We know these are very hard times here in the United States, that we're in the middle of a pandemic and massive loss of employment. So we're not trying to shame anyone, but what I want to ask is for each of you to consider making a donation that's meaningful to you, given wherever you are in your life and in your economic situation. So if it's a $10 donation, if it's a $25 donation, we would be thrilled to have it and to have you join with us. And if you're able to do more, we also want to open up the space and ask you to do that, because really we got to give as we can. So if you're able to make $1,000 contribution, we would encourage you, we want to make space and welcome you to do that now. We are sharing, for those of you on the Zoom, if you click on the chat, we're sharing the link where you can give. You can click through directly to the donation page of the Haiti Emergency Relief website. And for those of you who are not on the Zoom, it's just www.haitiemergencyrelief.org. And then you click on the donate button. We are raising Haiti Emergency Relief is raising the funds here in the United States, but we send all the money to Haiti. HERF doesn't have any staff. We're all doing this on a volunteer basis. So there's no overhead here in the US. It's all going to Haiti. So I want to encourage you to do that. Again, it's www.haitiemergencyrelief.org. And to go ahead and do it right now while we're all together on this call and see if we can hit our $60,000 goal. I am lastly going to invite Danny to join me. If you're still on here, Danny, in this call to
I'm still on.
Wonderful. Throwing it back to Danny.
You're throwing it back to me. I thank you so much, Mildred. Thank you so much, everyone who's on here. Ira, Congresswoman Waters, just everyone. I'm gonna start it off, okay? I'm donating $5,000. I'm not asking everyone else to donate. Donate what you can. All I can do in listening to the story, as the stories that we all have, the Congresswoman has, the stories that Ira has, and then it's certainly the story that Mildred just laid out, is just think about, we need this. This belongs to all of us. This hospital, this opportunity belongs to all of humanity. And certainly I want to, in this particular point in time, yes, we have so many things to work on. Yes, in this country and in the world, we have so many things to work on. But each time we put our resources and our human energy into talking about the right of dignity, humanity, the right of healthcare, the right of people living lives that they're proud of and that that they're part of. I just think that we have to do that. I'm so moved by this hospital and how we can replicate this. And this example gives us examples that we can export and find around the region and around the world. Thank you so much.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, I was muted. Great. Thank you so much, Danny. So we're going to continue to ask you to give over the next, over the last 20 or so minutes while our other speakers are talking. We'll come back and give you a little more information on that again. But right now, I want to go to Dr. Henri Ford, who's the Dean and Chief Academic Officer at the University of Miami, Leonard M. Miller School of Medicine. He's a Haitian-born pediatric surgeon. And Dr. Ford returns regularly to Haiti to provide medical care. And as you've heard, he's also lectured at Unifa and so knows well the situation on the ground and also the role that Unifa can play. So we just wanted to ask you to say a little bit more, Dr. Ford, about the situation, the healthcare situation in Haiti and how what role you feel that Unifa's teaching hospital can play.
Well, thank you so much, Laura, for the opportunity to speak. And to be part of this really outstanding panel. I'm truly humbled to be in such amazing company. And Mildred, all I can say is wow, double wow. What an inspiring delivery. You really put together the picture in such a way that no one else can, and with a certain eloquence and then really empathy, because you're living it. And you really, even as one who goes back and forth to Haiti all the time, you made it real. So thank you so very much. I'm deeply moved. In fact, I decided to dispense with my prepared remarks because you inspired me so much. And I'm gonna be relatively brief. I was born in Haiti. I left my country just before I turned 14 and grew up in Brooklyn and New Jersey for college, and then Boston med school, back to New York, and eventually ended up in Los Angeles, where I was when the Haiti earthquake hit. And this is, even though I had been going back and forth on some mission work in Haiti, I recognized at that time that Haiti didn't need my money only, it always needs the money, but they also needed my skills, my talent as a pediatric surgeon. I was the chief of surgery at Children's in LA at the time. And I flew shortly after the earthquake to Port-au-Prince, and as part of the team that was deployed by the Department of Health and Human Services, the DMAT insert team. I can say that after spending 2 of the most grueling weeks of my life trying to help save lives, trying to help alleviate some of the suffering of the Haitian people who had been victimized by this devastating earthquake, I recognize that this is not one of those situations where you could say it's one and done. Haiti was suffering from a profound lack of a healthcare infrastructure, which is why we saw so many deaths. And in addition to that, there were so many people who were badly injured and critically wounded in such a way that they had more amputees than anyone could ever envision. Hence the need to have a physical therapy school. So after that particular engagement, it became clear to me that I needed to continue to go back to help shore up that healthcare infrastructure. So I started to go back to Haiti to work with some of the medical students, with some of the deans to reform or revamp the medical school curriculum, and also to teach some of the Haitian surgery residents and practicing surgeons how to take care of neonatal surgical emergencies, because a lot of babies were really dying unnecessarily of very pedestrian problems that in any other developed country they manage to find a cure for. So having said that, that has been the engagement, and it was shortly after they returned to Haiti that I had the privilege of meeting with Mildred and former President Aristide. And there I heard their bold vision to create this educational ecosystem, modeled very much after the best North American universities in Unifa. This was the transformational idea that they had. And I must say, I had some skepticism that you could pull this off, but if anybody can do it, it's really Mildred and the former president. They are relentless, they're resilient, and they have a vision to transform the country and recognizing that it's education. It's about equipping the Haitian people with the right tools, education and some kind of a vocational skill that's going to get us out of the conditions that we find ourselves in. Which is why I have continued to support Unifa in so many ways. After we separated conjoined twins in Haiti for the very first time, the place where we gave the more or less press conference and the first academic conference was at Unifa, because it was important for these students to understand what is possible, because I am just like all of them. We have a number of exceptionally talented, bright students at Unifa who ask the most provocative questions, and you can see the thirst for knowledge, the thirst for the hunger for access to the best technology, for them to be able to become the best physicians and the best healthcare professionals that they can be, and this has been truly very moving. So Haiti needs more doctors. And in order for us to have more doctors, we need to have a medical school. But in order for these medical students to actually train and for these residents to ever ultimately become practicing physicians, we need hospitals. And here comes the argument for why we need to have a teaching hospital affiliated with the medical school. There is no question that it is of a paramount importance. We just don't have enough hospital beds in the country, and this is a unique opportunity for us to not only undergird the amazing work that's taking place at Unifa, but also to provide the students, the medical students and residents, an opportunity to train in a state-of-the-art hospital so that they can help meet the needs of the country in not only providing care now, but also in the future. So to me, the success of this ecosystem that's being built, or that they have already built, depends largely on completing the next step, which is to erect that teaching hospital. So I couldn't be more supportive, more excited about it, more eager to actually do all we can to ensure its success, both in my capacity as a dean of the University of Miami Middle School of Medicine, but also as a native Haitian, and also inspired by Danny Glover's very generous gesture, although I'm not quite in his league as an academic physician. I am pledging $1,000. Thank you very much, Laura.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ford. That's great. All right, well, I know we've already raised $6,000 for sure. So that puts us 1/10 of the way there. We still have 15 minutes, and I want to really encourage y'all to click on that link. Go ahead and do your donation now, because you may forget after you get off the phone. Best time to do it is now. We're also going to pull up a mailing address for folks who might want to send checks. If you don't want to give online, we'll get that into the chat in a minute as well. And we'll follow up the call. We'll provide all that information in a follow-up from the call as well, like via email.
Please allow me to join with Danny Glover in making a contribution. We're in the middle of our campaign But I do have a committee that is called the Leadership Committee that I get contributions into that can be utilized for nonprofits, etc. And so I believe that I will be able and will follow through and absolutely commit to the same amount that Danny did, $5,000 from People Helping People Political Action Committee to go toward this wonderful mission of this teaching hospital. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Congresswoman Waters. That's amazing. I'm also going to donate $1,000. I just wanted to say that. So I think we're well on our way to our goals here. And I wanted to remind people that sometimes if you can get a match, we are a 501, Haiti Emergency Relief Fund is a 501c3 foundation in the United States. So your donations are tax deductible. And if you have a program at your work, you can sometimes get a match for your giving. So you might want to look into that as well. A lot of workplaces have that. So this would be a great opportunity to double your own gift to HERF. Okay, we are going to go to our next speaker. This work is generational, and this call spans the generations. We wanted to have people who've been at this work for decades. Some of us are, we're young when we started and not so young now. But we also have young people who are emerging to fill our places. So I want to introduce K-Rana Harmon, who's a Ujima scholar and president of the Black Student Union at Foothill College. And she's a member of Students for Haiti Solidarity. And K-Rana, I know you recently were in Haiti and had the chance to visit the Unifa campus. And I thought you could tell us a little bit about those experiences. And I'm particularly interested from your point of view to hear your perspective on the connections you see between the movement for Black lives in the United States and the struggle for dignity in Haiti. So turn it to K-Rana.
Okay, I think the audio is better now. I'm on here twice, so it was echoing. But first, I just want to say sac passe and bonsoir, hello, and give thanks. It's definitely an honor to just be in this space. Thank you to my mentor, Seth, Robert, Mrs. Aristide, Pierre, just all my mentors and everyone, their presence here, listening, just being able to bring yourself in this space. It's definitely a blessing not to look over. So I'm very thankful to be here. And yes, my name is K-Rana Harmon. I grew up out of all over the Bay Area in California. I just turned 20 years old about 2 weeks ago. So yes, I'm a younger voice, and I'm actually the former BSU president from my high school and Foothill College, and I've been taking notes as everyone's talking, always in student mode. We're never done learning, so just thank you for everyone sharing. I think just just to keep it brief, the connection between the struggles in Haiti and then Black Lives Matter movement in the US, let alone the Bay Area, California. I just want people to realize that it's all the same, just the coverage is different. That we truly are, I believe in my heart, and that, we are all one, more similar than different. And, with the spirit of Ubuntu, I am, because we are, Haiti's struggles are our struggles. We can't forget them. They're humans just like us. They're just, on a different island, a different, location, a different city, whatever it is that, I am here because of, their resilience, their strength for Black liberation, and constantly, learning and researching from them, just how I can find my role, and that, I encourage everyone to, find their role. That may not be, whether that's protests, donating, studying, to be nurses, agriculture, finance, healthcare, government, education, that, you have your strength, your talent, your voice, your presence, and and that's useful and that's powerful wherever you can use it. But yeah, just what it means to me, being able to, I was 17 at the time, going to first time to Haiti with my group from my high school, visited multiple, yes, the University of Unifa. I got to meet Miss Aristide, yes, and just the blessing of her network and just lots of powerful leaders and stories that, you know, a lot of people I wasn't even exposed to, and, you know, in this growing up and getting educated in the Silicon Valley, not even hearing the word Haiti, let alone being able to have the privilege to go to Haiti and hear the stories and bring them back here, and just the messages, because the stories matter and the truth matters, and that's what's really important. That's what's really important to me. So I guess just lastly, I want to just the ending note I always just want to give, bring with me in this space is, you know, to have faith, you know, to smile more, to have courage and, you know, empowerment through our conversations and our actions towards healing, fixing wrongs, learning, and just, you know, always learning, being open with the spirits and the practices of Sankofa, you know, giving back what's been given to you, Umoja, or unity, if you don't know what Umoja stands for, and definitely dignity. So.
Thank you so much, K-Rana. Feeling like we have a bright future, both here in the United States and in Haiti. So I'm hearing we have $28,000 pledged so far between the pledges that folks have been making here, and the donations are pouring in on the website. So let's keep that going. I just shared the mailing address in the chat, and we'll follow up with an email with that as well. But you can also just go ahead and give right now to HaitiEmergencyRelief.org. And now I'm going to turn to our final speaker today, Ira Kurzman, who's going to bring it home for us. Ira is a civil rights and immigration attorney who spent decades fighting for the rights of immigrants and refugees. He was the counsel for the government of Haiti from 1991 to 2004, some very tumultuous years. And also an old friend of mine, comrade in this struggle of many Haiti triumphs and tribulations. So our question for you, Ira, is you've worked with the Aristides for over 30 years. Much of that work has focused on guaranteeing basic human rights, whether it was through government, through education, through healthcare. And I'm wondering how you see the work of Unifa around both education and healthcare in that long arc of the struggle for human rights in Haiti.
Thank you, Laura. Let me begin first by saying what an honor it is to be with all the people on this panel. To K-Rana Harmon for showing us what the next generation of people will be like after we're long gone. We can feel confident that we will have someone like her and others fighting for justice, fighting in solidarity with the people of Haiti. So thank you, K-Rana. Thank you also to Dr. Ford, who to me has always been the exemplar of the kind of people in the diaspora who have gone back to Haiti, who have worked for Haiti, who believe in the future of Haiti, and who have been there not only as a teacher, but as an example for all of the students who rely on a future in Haiti as doctors. So thank you very much. And of course, Laura, thank you. Laura is, I always feel Laura is kind of like my sister. I've known Laura for over 30 years. She has always been there in the struggles. She has always been optimistic. She's always been fighting for dignity for the Haitian people. And this is just another example of her good work. And thanks, of course, to Mildred, who I have known. Many of you may not know this, but I've known Mildred so long that I actually, along with Vice President Biden, spoke at Mildred's graduation when she was a law student. And Mildred, you know, as a lawyer, I think initially, like all of us, came to Haiti with the idea of looking at human rights as legal rights. And I think, as she's demonstrated today, that understanding grew more and more into an understanding that legal rights are just a very narrow part of what human rights are for the dignity and justice for Haitians that they deserve. And then, of course, to Danny Glover, you know, we all know Danny's an incredibly famous actor, but I remember Danny in the early 1980s when he was good enough and kind enough to come to Miami and meet at the Haitian Refugee Center when, you know, no one was talking about Haitian refugees very much in those days. He has always been an inspiration to me because he has not only shown great intelligence, commitment, historical knowledge about Haiti and about the other countries in the Western Hemisphere, but he's really been there in every single way throughout the last 30 years in terms of helping Haiti and other people in the Western Hemisphere. So thank you very much, Danny, and thanks for your commitment all these years. And of course, last but not least, is Congresswoman Maxine Waters, who I have to tell you, I owe an incredible debt to because she's actually saved my life twice, not once. Once in Haiti and then once in the Central African Republic. It's a very long story, but I always say about Congresswoman Waters, if we had 10 of her in Congress, America would look like a totally different country. She has the courage, commitment, intelligence, and that fighting spirit that we unfortunately don't always see in our Congress. So I love you. Thank you for everything you've done. And in the honor of all the people today, I'm also going to make a contribution of $5,000 toward the teaching hospital. I've spent virtually my entire legal career fighting for justice and dignity for Haitian refugees in the United States and the people of Haiti. And I was privileged to work with the democratically elected governments of Haiti from 1991 to 2004. Most privileged, of course, to work with President Jean-Bertrand Aristide. You know, I understood from the very beginning of my work with Haitian refugees and then with the people of Haiti that human rights and political and legal rights are intertwined. We cannot have a fair and just legal or political system unless we have healthy, educated citizens. After all, how can we teach people about the rule of law who are too sick to go to school, too weak from illness to vote, too worried about finding clean water to support democracy? Health is a human right, and without it, all the other political and social and legal rights can never be fully effectuated. In the years we spent to end impunity for wrongdoing in Haiti, we found that the Haitian people courageously and without hesitation sought justice. But justice comes in many forms. Justice is the right to live without violence, to educate your children, whether or not you're wealthy, to drink clean water, to have a roof over your head, and to have access to health care. I stand with the Aristides in their struggle over the last 30 years to achieve that kind of justice for Haiti and for the Haitian people. You know, when President Aristide returned to Haiti in 2011, he made a promise to the Haitian people that he would dedicate his life to education, to the rule of law, and to the health of its citizens. And every day he has sought to fulfill that promise. But no person can accomplish this goal alone. The health of the Haitian people is more precarious than ever. Haiti, you know, has endured earthquakes, cholera, hurricanes, and now the coronavirus. We also know that the more a population is vulnerable to general ill health, the easier the coronavirus can spread. And we, unfortunately, in the US have not helped Haiti. In fact, unfortunately, the opposite is true. By knowingly and intentionally deporting Haitians to Haiti that have contracted COVID-19, we have harmed the people of Haiti. Instead of treating Haitians in the US with COVID-19, we've deported them and thus helped to spread the virus in the most vulnerable place in this hemisphere. We owe the Haitian people at least the ability to take care of themselves, to train doctors and nurses and other healthcare professionals in Haiti to help the country. That's why I personally donated a lot of money prior today, and I will personally donate again $5,000 to the Unifa Teaching Hospital. We all need to do our parts, and we hope that you all will help as well. So dig deep as much as you can into your pockets in these tough times and give some money to people to allow them to help themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ira. That's hard to hear about the United States actively spreading COVID to Haiti. It's devastating. It's unfortunately not inconsistent with the history of the United States relationship with Haiti. So we all owe a big debt to Haiti. I'm going to encourage you one last time to make a donation if you haven't already. We are at over 40,000. We have an additional anonymous donation of 5,000 that someone reached out to let us know about. And we've raised 35,000 online and through all the speakers. So that's pretty amazing. I think we're going to hit the 60,000 by the end of the day. I'm always optimistic, yes. And go ahead and give now. And then we're also going to bug you later. We're going to follow up with an email with all the information on where to give. And also, if you maybe have more questions, we'll figure out a way to answer those questions for you. I'm going to wind it up because we want to respect your time. We're on time, which is pretty amazing. We're very close to on time. We know you're all busy. Thank you for spending a chunk of your Saturday with us. I want to thank all of our sponsors who joined us in this call. Special thanks to the tech people, especially Karina Nolette from Global Exchange and Lauren Richardson, who ran the back end of this call, and to Nia Amara for creating the beautiful invitation, to Lisa Roth for her design work. Shout out to Boots Riley and Danny Glover again for helping to promote the webinar with their social media followings. It's been great. Thanks to Michelle Carson for use of her video, Haiti Action Committee for all their work, Margaret Prescott of Global Women's Strike, and then finally to our panelists, Danny, Mildred, K-Rana, Henri Ford, Ira Kurzman for sharing all your time and wisdom with us today. I encourage you again to give generously as you can to support this incredible work in Haiti. And we will follow up. Let's get this hospital built. Let's complete this campaign for dignity. And let's train a new generation of doctors and other health workers in Haiti. Thank you all for being here. We are going to sign off. But maybe we can all just unmute and say goodbye. How about that? Let's do that. Can you unmute yourselves? I don't know. If you can't, just wave.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Later.
Goodbye. All right.
I hit it. It was unmuted.
Okay.
Et le tricolore bleu blanc de notre université.